Rome. You're sitting in the upper tiers of the Colosseum. The stone is hot beneath you. 50,000 voices are screaming in your ears. Your husband is beside you. He hasn't looked at you once. Down on the sand, a man is bleeding. His opponent is on the ground. The crowd demands death. The editor raises his hand, and the fighter, scarred, chest heaving, sweat and blood mixing on his skin, lowers his sword, refuses. The crowd erupts. Your husband shouts something you don't hear, because the man on the sand has just looked up, not at the emperor, not at the mob, at you, directly at you, like you are the only still thing in 50,000 screaming Romans. Your hands tighten in your lap. You look away first. You will think about that half-second for the rest of your life. Because in ancient Rome, there was a secret so widespread that satirists wrote about it, graffiti screamed it, and court scandals confirmed it. Roman women, noblewomen, senators' wives, even an empress, were obsessed with gladiators, men who were under Roman law, ranked below freed prostitutes, men who were owned, men who were scheduled to die. And what drove the most powerful women in the world into the arms of the most disposable men in it was hidden so deliberately that history almost forgot it entirely. His name is scratched into a bathhouse wall in Pompeii, not carved carefully, scratched, the way you write something when your hands are shaking and you need to say it before you lose your nerve. The handwriting is a woman's. The ash buried it for 2,000 years. When archaeologists uncovered it, the words were still perfectly legible. Celadus the Thraex, heart-throb of the girls. Not a senator, not a general, not a philosopher with a marble bust in the forum, a gladiator, a slave, a man who under Roman law ranked lower than a freed prostitute on the social hierarchy Rome spent centuries constructing. And yet a woman who risked everything to write his name on a wall did it anyway, not in private, on a public bathhouse wall where anyone could read it, where her husband could read it. She didn't care. That is the story, not the scandal, the why. If that kind of buried history grips you, the kind Rome tried to plaster over and the centuries tried to forget, you're exactly where you belong. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Let's pull these voices out of the silence together. Livia was 14 when she became a wife, not asked, not consulted, handed, the way you hand over a document, a deed, proof of transaction complete. The negotiation happened in a room she wasn't in, over wine she didn't pour, between two men deciding the terms of a transaction that would define every hour of the rest of her life. Her father smiled when it was done. The senator nodded. Somewhere in that exchange of pleasantries, Livia's future was settled. She found out the next morning. This was Rome. This was every Roman woman's Rome, and the nobler the family, the tighter the invisible cage. Under patria potestas, her father owned her completely until the moment her husband did. She could not own property, could not initiate a divorce, could not refuse her husband's bed, his household decisions, or the social performances he required of her at every dinner, every temple visit, every public occasion. She had a chaperone for the market, a chaperone for the baths. Eyes everywhere, always, measuring the precise temperature of her obedience. The nobler the family, the more eyes, the smaller the world. At dinner parties, senators debated empire across the table while she arranged her face into the correct expression of attentive, decorative silence. Her husband reached across her once, not to touch her, not to acknowledge her, to refill his own cup. Didn't look at her, didn't need to. She was furniture that occasionally spoke when spoken to. She had a beautiful home, fine clothes, gold earrings her husband selected because her taste was not the point. She had everything Rome told a woman she should want. She had never felt so completely erased. But that was before the arena. The games were not optional. Attending was a civic duty, a social performance, another item on the long list of things Roman women did because their husbands required it. But something happened in those upper tiers that Rome never officially acknowledged. Permission. 50,000 people screaming meant you could scream too. 50,000 people releasing every emotion that Roman life demanded they keep compressed and invisible. Grief, rage, hunger, fear meant that for 2 hours on a Tuesday, a Roman noblewoman could feel something without anyone singling her out for it. The arena was the only place in Rome where a woman's rawness disappeared into the crowds. Their names were painted on city walls like gods: Celadus, Spiculus, Flamma. Graffiti screamed their records, their victories, their physical descriptions in handwriting that ranged from careful to desperate. They were the closest thing the ancient world had to modern celebrity, except their fame was purchased daily with their own blood, and every crowd that adored them was also capable of screaming for their death before the hour was out. Then Marcus entered the sand. He was a Thraex, the fighting style that demanded speed and precision over brute force. He was not the largest man on the sand. He was the most still. Even moving, there was a quality of absolute stillness about him, the way certain dangerous things are still, not because they are at rest, but because they are completely ready. He won, the crowd rose, the editor raised his hand, finish it. Marcus stood over his fallen opponent. He looked at the man beneath him. He looked at the screaming crowd, demanding death, the way crowds always demand the things that cost them nothing. He lowered his sword. The crowd erupted, not with approval, with fury. Livia's husband was on his feet shouting something. Everyone around her was in motion, noise, outrage. Marcus didn't move. He let the crowd exhaust itself against him like a wave against stone. Then slowly, almost calmly, he looked up, not at the emperor's box, not at the editor, at the crowd, moving his gaze across 50,000 screaming Romans like he was reading something written in the air above them. His eyes found Livia's. Half a second, maybe less. He looked at her the way no man in Rome ever had, like she was worth seeing, like she was, specifically and completely there. Her husband sat back down and resumed talking about grain prices. Livia stared at the sand for the rest of the afternoon and understood, with a clarity that frightened her, that something had just broken open inside her that was not going to close. She told herself it was nothing, the heat, the crowd, the strangeness of a man who defied 50,000 people without raising his voice. She told herself that for 3 weeks. Rome had a legal concept called infamia disgrace. It was applied to actors, prostitutes, and gladiators. A man marked infamies could not vote, could not testify in court, could not inherit property, could not marry a freeborn Roman woman. He existed outside the protections and obligations of Roman civic life simultaneously, belonging to Rome's entertainment without belonging to Rome itself. Under Roman law, Marcus ranked below a freed slave who swept a senator's floor. And here is the savage irony. That legal disgrace was exactly what made him safe to want. A noblewoman who desired a senator was playing with catastrophe. He had political connections that tangled directly into her husband's world, leverage and social weapons that could be turned against her in ways she couldn't predict or prevent. But Marcus, he could threaten nothing. He owned nothing. He had no political agenda, no dowry calculation, no social standing to protect by exposure. He was desire without consequence, except for the single consequence Rome punished more severely than almost anything else: being sane. Juvenal, Rome's most vicious satirist, documented it with gleeful contempt and apparently no self-awareness whatsoever. Senators' wives disguising themselves to enter gladiator barracks, fortunes handed through gates in the middle of the night, noble marriages quietly, completely destroyed by arena obsessions. He wrote it to shame them. He named names. He expected Rome to recoil. Rome recognized itself instead. Juvenal wasn't describing a few scandalous exceptions. He was describing a pattern so widespread that satirizing it required a full body of work. Livia read Juvenal the way a woman reads a map to somewhere she has already decided to go. The ludus, the gladiator training school, was not what the crowds imagined between bouts. No glory between fights, just sweat, discipline, and barley, deliberately barley. The high-carb diet built a layer of subcutaneous fat that made arena wounds bleed dramatically without hitting anything vital. Their bodies were engineered, beautiful, and destructible simultaneously, optimized for survival and spectacle in equal measure. The paradox of a man constructed to be magnificent precisely because he was expendable. The Lannister owned them completely, fed them, trained them, scheduled their deaths, but popular fighters were valuable property, and valuable property was managed carefully. Better quarters, better food, and the gifts delivered daily to the gate by people who would never admit to sending them. Perfume, coins wrapped in cloth, letters written in careful feminine handwriting and sealed twice. Wealthy women paid the Lannister directly for private audiences, arranged discreetly, deniably, through intermediaries who understood that their silence was itself a commodity with a price. This wasn't rumor, it was documented, it was systematic. Archaeologists found the records. A freedwoman Livia trusted mentioned it once, quietly, at the market. Just mentioned it, the way you mention a door that exists without suggesting anyone open it. Livia filed the information away and told herself she would never use it. She told herself that for 3 months. Before Livia made her choice, she needed to understand one thing. She was not alone, not even close to alone, not even close to the most powerful woman who had made this choice. Faustina the Younger was Empress of Rome, wife of Marcus Aurelius, philosopher, Stoic, the emperor history would canonize as one of its greatest minds. She had every protection the empire could offer, every luxury, every legal shield available to any woman in the ancient world. She sat at the absolute apex of Roman society, the highest point any woman could reach. The Historia Augusta records her alleged obsession with a gladiator. Whether truth or political fabrication, the story was believed widely enough to survive 2,000 years intact, and it destroyed her reputation completely while her husband's remained spotless. Rome never asked why the most powerful woman in the empire might seek something her marriage didn't provide. Rome simply noted it, judged it, recorded it for posterity as evidence of her weakness, and moved on. Marcus Aurelius, meanwhile, wrote in his Meditations, his private philosophical journal, his innermost thoughts, that he thanked the gods his wife was obedient and affectionate. He had no idea, or chose not to. That is possibly the most famous example of a man failing to understand his own household in all of recorded human history, the most celebrated mind of his age. 4 books on the examined life. 0 pages on what his wife examined when no one was watching. The most powerful woman in the Roman world and a provincial noblewoman with folded hands in her lap shared the exact same secret. That is not coincidence. That is not weakness. That is what happens when a civilization builds a cage, calls it a life, and then acts surprised when the people inside it find the gaps in the wire. Strip away the scandal, ask the real question. What did Marcus have that every toga-draped senator in Rome didn't? Choice, even enslaved, even owned, even legally scheduled to die, he had chosen this. The Sacramentum Gladiatorium, the oath every fighter swore upon entering the life, was an acceptance of death on his own terms, a decision made with full knowledge of the cost. No Roman noblewoman had ever been offered terms, not once, not for anything. Their entire lives were a series of decisions made by other people on their behalf, presented as fait accompli over dinner tables they hadn't been invited to sit at. And he was present, completely, physically, dangerously present in every moment in a world that required Livia to be permanently absent from her own life, to perform, to disappear behind the correct expression, to fold her hands and wait for the room to need something from her. Pliny documented it, Juvenal sneered at it. The scars, Roman writers noted with a mixture of disdain and fascination that Roman women were drawn specifically to gladiator scars, not despite them, because of them, because a scar is proof that something real happened to this body, that something was survived, that the man wearing it was tested by something that could have ended him and chose to remain. In the darkness, Livia traced the ridge of scar tissue across Marcus's shoulder. He didn't explain it. He didn't need to. She already knew what it meant. Her husband's skin was perfect, unmarked, smooth from decades of comfort and consequence-free living. He had never bled for anything, not once, not ever. The secret visits required choreography. Rome's surveillance culture was not paranoid fantasy, it was architecture. Slaves reported to husbands as routine household management. Neighbor women noticed altered schedules the way they noticed everything. Because noticing was the only power available to people with no other kind. The entire social fabric was stitched together with observations so fine and so constant that female privacy was not just difficult, it was structurally nearly impossible. Women found the gaps anyway: borrowed cloaks, false names given at gates, trusted freedwomen used as intermediaries who carried messages and arranged times and understood that their silence was purchased with loyalty that ran both directions. What Livia hadn't calculated was what she found on the other side of those arrangements. Marcus was not what she had built in her imagination during 3 months of telling herself she would never use that information. He had a mind, sharp, observant, darkly funny in the way of someone who has spent years watching powerful people make catastrophic decisions while believing themselves brilliant. He spoke about death the way other men discussed the weather, not dramatically, quietly, practically. He was probably not going to survive the year, and he knew it with the same calm certainty that he knew the sun rose in the east. She had expected fire. She had not expected to be genuinely, completely known by another human being for the first time in her adult life. The tragedy was building underneath everything. She could feel it the way you feel weather changing in your bones before the sky shows it. Then one evening, her husband received a whisper from across a dinner table. He didn't react, didn't look up from his cup, didn't change his expression by a single degree. He simply found Livia's eyes across the room and smiled. Rome had a price list for women who chose wrong. Divorce meant losing everything, and in Rome, everything meant her children. They belonged to her husband's family legally, completely, without appeal. Some women received exile, sent to remote provincial towns where they lived out their days known by everyone and acknowledged by no one. For some, worse. Juvenal documented a senator's wife who gave a gladiator her entire inheritance, estates, jewelry, accounts, everything accumulated across generations of her family, and ended up begging on the street outside the very arena she had once entered on cushioned seats with servants carrying her cushions. Rome felt no sympathy. Rome had warned her. Rome had built an entire legal and social infrastructure specifically to prevent exactly this outcome, and she had walked through it anyway, and Rome considered that the end of the conversation. Livia learned she had been seen, not confirmed, not yet acted upon. But a whisper at a dinner table has a life of its own in Rome, and whispers traveled faster than any messenger. Then the Lannister found her at the barracks gate. Marcus had been scheduled for a high-profile bout, a special games, the kind with a full house and an emperor's box occupied, and extra sand laid down because the blood would run heavy. The odds, the Lannister said quietly without looking at her, were poor. He said it the way you say a thing when you want someone to make a decision before the decision is made for them. She understood what he was telling her. She understood what it meant. She understood with perfect clarity what walking away right now would cost and what it would save. She sat down in the dark outside the gate. She didn't move. Leaving felt like dying. Staying felt like living. Rome had made those the same thing for women like her, in situations like this, in a city like this, for 500 years before her name was ever spoken. And she had just discovered, at the gate of a gladiator school in the dark, that she preferred living. Whatever it cost. Marcus died on a Tuesday. Not in a cinematic blaze of glory with the crowd on its feet and his name echoing off marble. On a Tuesday, in front of 40,000 people who had already shifted in their seats and started arguing about the next bout before his body reached the sand's edge. The man who raked the blood moved with the efficiency of someone who had done this every working day of his adult life. Livia was in the stands. She did not scream. She did not stand. She did not reach for anyone beside her. She had been trained for 22 years in the precise art of feeling nothing visibly, and the training held. She sat completely still and watched them drag him across the sand and watched the next pair enter the gate, and watched 40,000 people forget Marcus of the Thraex in under 60 seconds. Rome moved on. Rome always moved on. That was the point. She went home, sat at her husband's table, arranged her hands in her lap, accepted a cup she didn't drink from, listened to men discuss grain prices and senatorial appointments and the quality of the next games already being planned. Everything looked exactly the same. Nothing would ever be the same. Somewhere in Pompeii, in the wall of a bathhouse, under 2,000 years of volcanic ash that preserved it better than any archive, a woman once picked up a sharp piece of stone and scratched 7 words into the plaster. Not carefully, not with the measured penmanship of official records. Scratched, fast, urgent, like something that needed to be said before she could think better of it. Celadus makes the girl sigh. Subscribe if these are the histories you want to keep hearing. Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and whatever you do, don't let Rome bury it again.